All right, so last week, Donald Trump announced a $500 billion AI announcement called Stargate, which I think kind of struck everyone, definitely especially me, as complete smoke and mirrors. Even Elon Musk initially kind of just said they don't even have that money. I think it's pretty clear that the $500 billion is just huge, and Trump likes big things, and so he went with that. Um, so I don't know. Did you see the news, and what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was, it bothered me a lot, actually, because here is a sort of intervention by a government entity where they seem to have selected a few companies. I don't know what the basis of that selection was. I tend to like the
Right.
marketplace for selecting such companies. I tend to believe in the old fashioned, uh, often associated with the Republican notion of competition, where companies are competing with each other. I mean, cooperation is fine too, but it feels somewhat Chinese or somewhat un-American to say, okay, we need the government to like drive this entire push, especially like you say, it's around this nebulous, undefined concept. I'm also bothered by the
Right.
fact that they want to drive all these jobs. Okay, well, where do AI experts come from? They come from other AI companies. So are they going to be brain draining American companies to do this boondoggle? It also feels like, they explicitly express interest in having these jobs be in a red state as opposed to California,
Yep.
which is a blue state. And so I just kind of feel icky about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. It seems phony. It kind of they said that the construction's already underway. It's already so that means they got construction permits. They've been thinking about this for at least a year, and now a week ago, Donald Trump comes into office and kind of slaps his name on it because we didn't know if he was going to win. So this clearly was the idea was generated before he was in office, and so it's unclear why the government is now there. He didn't pledge any government money towards it. There's just SoftBank is going to give the money. Satya Nadella at Microsoft said, oh, I'm putting up my 80 billion, or he went on record saying, I'm good for my portion. So unclear what role the government will play.
Mm-hmm.
Not really happy that Sam Altman is getting this giant promotion in life, just because we've spent the last couple of years seeing executives not want to
Yep.
work with him, hearing the
Mm-hmm.
board fire him for not
Mm-hmm.
disclosing information, for
Yeah.
lying to them. And now it just seems like all of that's water under the bridge, and his semi-monopolistic partnership with Microsoft is just getting more and more extreme. And then the government says, "Hey, looks good to me. Let's pour some gas on the fire and see what all these ingredients can do." And it's we'll see. I don't know.
The key partners are OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and MGX.
Yep.
MGX is a UAE based company. And like, are these really the key people, the movers and shakers in the world of AI? I mean, OpenAI for sure is.
Microsoft,
Oracle,
Nvidia,
yeah. I mean,
Oracle.
well, I mean, those are technology partners, and of course, Microsoft is a player, Nvidia is a player, ARM, is a chip maker. Not on Nvidia's level in terms of AI hardware. And again,
Right.
Oracle is a technology partner, and I just think that, well, the most glaring weirdness is Masayoshi Son of SoftBank. Like, what's his role other than bankrolling something? And he tends to bankroll loser kind of like operations. I'm sure he has some winners as well, but I just don't. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, this is supposed to be about American leadership, and you have UAE and Masayoshi Son, who are
Hmm.
not American players, but they seem so the money seems to be coming from abroad, much
Right.
of it. The technology is American technology, but I don't know. This whole thing. I would love to say. I would love to hear something like, "Oh, we have this moon. We're going to put a man on the moon, return him safely to Earth by the end of the
Exactly. A
decade." Like something
specific thing.
measurable. But instead, it's like, "Oh, we're just going to throw a whole bunch of money at
Yep.
this this concept of AI." Which my son Baron says is amazing, and you should see him on his laptop. He's amazing. Who knows what the driving force is? I just don't like any of it.
I agree. It's the money is a fake amount. Uh, Elon Musk says they don't even have the money. I don't agree with everything he says, but it was notable that he came out against this initiative. It's a bit of sour grapes. I think he was sad he wasn't at the press conference where Trump was praising everyone in the room for
Yeah.
being an AI leader and a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And look at these guys, they're going to change the world. And he wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not specific. We don't know if and what will come out of it, if anyone will
Yeah.
benefit. There is no goal. There is no point when enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
There is no threshold. What there is there are data centers, servers in the ground in
Mm-hmm.
Texas, and that is what it is. I know it has a flashy sci-fi name, but it's
Right.
servers in the ground.
Right. And who are the clear winners here if this thing turns into something real? OpenAI is clear winner because it's the only
Yep,
sort of chatbot company that's involved in this, or it's been mentioned. It's the best of my knowledge.
true.
And Texas is a clear winner because this is when they build it. They want to build a gazillion data centers, and I should think that they'd want to build data centers in a colder place because the biggest cost of data
I
centers
know,
is air
right? Like I've
conditioning.
been saying that forever.
Yeah,
Water, they say ChatGPT uses 10 times the amount of compute as a typical Google search. That requires, more data centers, which requires more water to cool them. There are different ways to get around that, but certainly putting them in a cold location is a great start.
yeah. And I just feel in general that it's a meddling by the government in an
Right.
industry that is basically has its own way to choose the winners and losers, not
Mhm.
something anointed by a group. I mean, I assume that the key players here, OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, there are companies they like and companies they don't like. I'm sure Trump wouldn't know the difference between one company or another. And
Right.
so I just feel like they've got the ear of somebody in power. They've sort of got this thing going, and it's clearly going to be self-serving for the
Right.
companies involved. Otherwise, why would they do it? Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit, Emily.
I don't like it one bit either, Mike, and I'm only comforted by the fact that I think it's all kind of fake anyway. So I don't even
Yeah.
know what I'm not losing sleep over it. It's just part of for the course at this point.
And it feels un-American. Un-American, I tell you. And speaking of things that feel like they're kind of Chinese, uh, the world of surveillance had a big shift this within the last week, which is that a company called GeoSpy has basically pulled the plug on public access. Now, for those of you who don't know what GeoSpy is, and I think the vast majority of people don't have any idea what this is, GeoSpy is a company that has hoarded all this uh, photographic and geo tagged data, basically gazillions of pictures like Google Maps or something like that, where they have all this pictures of places and it's all plugged into AI. And so you can come along with your own photo and you can say, okay, where is this photo taken?
Hmm.
And it
Is it
will
like a
look at the,
website or is it a program you
yeah,
have to run?
it's a cloud service, and I don't know if they have a desktop app or something like that, but it's
Okay,
it's
got it.
it's basically a online search engine type of thing,
Right.
and it looks at the leaves and the foliage and the buildings and the roads and how what the signs look like. Is that Australian?
Wow.
Are those Australian signs or are those English signs, and that sort of thing? And it will basically oftentimes tell you exactly where a picture's been taken. Now, the reason they pulled the plug from public access is they feared that stalkers and
Right.
nefarious shady types would be using this to be up to no good. And so they're reserving it for law enforcement and governments. Surely espionage organizations are using it as well. And so I
Well, it's
just,
called GeoSpy, so yeah, probably being used
yeah,
for
yeah,
espionage.
good
Yeah.
point. Good point. But I just generally, I'm of two minds. First of all, it clearly can be used to violate somebody's property, somebody's privacy. It can be used to sort of dox somebody, any number of bad uses. So
Right.
that's good that they took it off. But on the other hand, I'm always bothered by new technology that's very powerful, where law enforcement and governments and spy agencies use it, take advantage of the new technology, ban it from the public use so that they have an advantage over the public when they are in fact, and then this is especially true of law enforcement. So if the police have this capability, but we the public don't have the capability to use this powerful tool to sort of hold the police accountable, then they have a big advantage through this
Right.
technology.
Right. It's a good. I hadn't thought of that. I haven't. considered it because in general I get nervous when the masses have access to something very powerful that, in this case could be used for stalking, and that is something a lot of women are
Hmm.
affected by and can, make them not want to go to work. It can make you not want to leave your house. And so of course nobody wants that. Whether banning this tool leads to that outcome, I'm not sure, because
Hmm.
there are other ones, right? There's like a
Yeah.
PIMS one that you told me about. What is
PimEyes
that?
is
Pim
is
eyes.
a PimEyes, which is a website that anybody can go to, pimeyes.com, and you can just upload a photo that you took or you downloaded or you have, and it will show you all the other places. It'll try to show you all the other places where that same person, not the same photo
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, the same person
Creepy.
has photographs on websites. Oftentimes, it'll show websites that aren't even super public. So there are people who've been in advertisements for companies. The advertisement was
Mm.
5 years ago. They just continued the ad, but they left a picture on the server, and this will find it on that server. So it's really great for stalking, for violating somebody's privacy. There are good uses for it as well, but as a public service, it's also for paid service. So if you pay for
Right.
it, it's even more powerful. And I've written about this before, and I pointed out, just to shock people into understanding the implications of this technology, that you can take a picture of somebody with a regular camera from 50 yards, 100 yards away, and with that photo, you can find their home address in 20 seconds,
Yeah, it's
and that's all
crazy.
it takes. Yeah, because the photo will lead you to the website. The website will give you the name oftentimes, and the
Right.
name will give you the public databases of where people have purchased or rented properties.
Right. And
So
it raises a lot of questions that the government was like, yeah, we want that.
yeah,
Right? I mean, we already
yeah.
have social media and the internet, and they can get access to our phone calls and our texts, and
Hmm.
it's a surveillance state atmosphere if you think
Yeah.
about it. But we think it's not happening. But then when you hear about something like this, it's like, oh yeah, they are very
Hmm.
much interested in that technology. Um, of course, they would probably, I don't know, is it only in the US, the data, or can you look up anyone in the world?
Um, I'm not sure. I would guess it's global, but I know for a fact that that it works in the U.S. I
Right.
tested American use cases, basically myself,
Wow.
and so it does work for that. But basically, this is another example of how science fiction, dystopian science fiction, always thought we'd have this police states
Mm-hmm.
of government surveillance, but
Right.
it turns out that we ourselves are doing it to each other.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
we put cameras in our own house, not Big Brother, and these are hackable. These are usable by any number of actors, government hackers, you name it. So this is another example of where your privacy is less assured than you may think.
Yeah.
This is a and by the way, I've seen this tool used in movies, and you look at the during the movie you look at what they're doing, and it's
Wow.
actually PIMIs. They're actually doing it. So
Huh.
that's an interesting bit of like tech consulting there for the Hollywood studio.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, I actually, I there's something called the Freedom of Information Act, which is that you
Yep.
have the right to know what the government knows about you. And
Mm-hmm.
I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request on about
Great.
myself last week. So
Nice.
we will see what comes back.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think the time they have to get back to me is within a couple weeks. So
Yeah.
I'll let you know, or in the next episodes, we'll find out what the government knows about me.
Yes.
And I would just be fascinated to see the extent to which they keep the records, and if they're even
Yeah.
honest. Like maybe they're using this tool on me, and they're not. Are they
Right.
obligated to tell me that they know that I went, to the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store on Sunday? Or
Right.
yeah.
You're
So
on
we'll
a
see.
journey of self-discovery, and you want to
Kind
find out what
of.
the NSA has on you. And
Yeah, I
so,
want to know. I feel like I'm a
yeah.
very unobjectionable use case. I have not committed any crimes. I am just a person in the
Mm-hmm.
world pursuing my career and my my
Mm-hmm.
life. And so I
Yeah.
consider myself relatively average in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can maybe
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what they have on the average person like me.
How hard was it?
Very easy, crazy easy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I kind of
Huh.
I hope to write about it and show people you can do this.
Yeah.
Also, one of the agencies that you can request information from is USCIS, which is immigration.
Mm-hmm.
which is very
Yeah.
topical for today in terms of how they're tracking and categorizing who
Yes.
basically doesn't deserve to be here anymore
I see.
per their standards.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Hmm.
So you have been thinking a lot about AI ads from Meta, and I've been thinking a lot about AI for users from Meta. But tell me about your thought process around AI ads and where you encounter them.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Have you seen an AI ad in public?
Yes, I mean in Silicon Valley, that's most of the
Yeah,
billboards are for
right.
advertisements for AI.
Right. And they're kind of alarming to me. Like I went to
Yeah, yeah,
Chicago over the summer and I saw that the whole city was plastered with Claude AI ads. And I was like,
hmm.
do they think that Chicago is like going to be the center of Claude users or like what? I don't see Claude anywhere else.
Hmm.
And then this past weekend, I went to DC to visit my sister. And in the very beautiful Union Station, there was a Meta open source AI ads. And just a rant about them. I thought they were ridiculous.
Hmm.
It says open source AI for all. And so many problems with that. One, which you actually pointed out, is it's not open for all. Like Meta
Right.
keeps a control on the core model, and you can tweak little things. Like you have a
Yeah.
car, you can still adjust the air conditioning, but you didn't build the car, and you don't
Right.
really know like exactly how the car works. But you have an
Yeah.
illusion of control. You set your profile, you have your little radio stations, or that's
Yes.
pretty much what it is.
Right.
Um, the other one is that it's not for all, and you shouldn't look at that billboard and think, wow, I'm so behind the ball. I'm not trying Meta open
Right.
source AI. Like, what am I doing? Everyone in DC
Yeah.
is so advanced. It's like, no, you need to have a very specific set of coding skills. You need to have an upgraded computer with the right storage,
Hmm.
and you need to have a use case to do this. And you basically, at that point, you would download the model from Meta and start tweaking it. But
Yeah.
just positioning it as something for all is absurd.
Right. Right. And I suspect that they are just have a general sense that they want to make AI and the use of AI by the general public a very broad based thing for their social networks, because I have the
Right.
feeling that through all of their recent, you know, kind of initiatives around creating internet based fake persons with using AI to create fake profile pictures, using AI to,
Yep.
so they have tools for the users to do it. They have tools for influencers to create to clone themselves so that AI is actually interacting with all the fans that they have a parasocial relationship with, so they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
There's actually a theory around this called the dead internet theory. The dead internet theory is the idea that the internet is dead because it's mostly AI and chatbots and stuff like that. And the reason for that, according to the dead internet theory, is because the government is shady and all the usual things that conspiracy theories tend to have. That part of it is unsupported. The idea that there are way too many bots out there is provable. More than
Yes.
half of the internet stuff online nowadays is generated with AI. But Meta
Hmm.
is really a cheerleader for this idea. They have all these different tools. They have one for creators where they know that creators are always taking pictures and videos of themselves in all these amazing situations and
Right.
places, and so they want to expand the number of creators by including people who don't go to those places and don't look that way and don't
Right.
and aren't have don't have this beautiful life the way that a lot of creators claim to have. You can just have AI put you in these amazing places, and they think this is good for some reason. This is something that really
I know.
bothers me, and I think the way they see it as well. There's only so many people on the planet, but if every single person creates an average of 3 fake people, that's like quadruple the users on Meta platforms. So the whole thing
Right.
bothers me a lot, and I think that they used to they used to give lip service to the idea of connecting people connecting with other people. Now they just want people connecting with nobody, basically, with AI
Yeah.
bots. And
Right.
so they
Connecting with
seem to think,
Meta.
yes, exactly, with meta tools.
Right.
And as long as you generate activity and you keep people sort of stuck on the platform for more time in the day, it's all good. And I disagree. I think that's
Right.
bad. I think people need to go outside and they need to interact with real people.
I agree.
Call me old fashioned.
No, it's true. And there's so much rage towards Meta right now. I just
Yeah.
came up a lot with a TikTok ban. Just people being like, well, if we ban TikTok now, we're stuck with Meta. And Mark Zuckerberg is talking about how workplaces are not male enough and how
Yeah.
DEI is atrocious. And yeah, they don't make it easy to not hate them when they do
Right.
things like this.
Yeah. And they're like, we're not going to do so much fact checking anymore. And everybody was like, you
Hmm.
guys were fact checking? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Well,
also
one
like
of
anyone, I don't know, I don't see anything I take. I haven't been getting facts from any Meta platform for a long
the,
time.
no facts
So,
to check.
yeah, like in
Well,
principle I like quality information. Everyone likes that. They're
yes.
saying it's going to be better, but I really haven't gotten any information from their platforms in a long time.
I go to Facebook once in a while because there are just a whole lot of people who I can only reach on Facebook, and family members, people I really care about,
Hmm.
and so I go there once in a while just check it out. And literally, like 60% of my feed is this horrid garbage, this Facebook AI slop,
Yeah.
where it's often designed. They're one of the bizarre new sort of genres in this category is that somebody has this, you know, somebody made like this photorealistic, little house out of shells. And there's a
Oh
boy saying,
yeah.
I made this by myself and nobody
Yeah.
seems to care. And then there's like 50,000 comments. Oh, no, it's beautiful. You did a great job. And it's
Oh
obviously
no.
AI. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who are these people who are responding to these? I did a whole piece on this 8 months ago. And there was a genre of pathetic children saying it was their birthday. And so AI, of course, is doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Some of them look kind of, in the ballpark of plausible if you have poor eyesight. But there was this one where a girl was in shallow water. There was a sign that said, "It's my birthday," and it was shoved into her body. There was a birthday cake with the
Right.
candles in the water, and she had this pathetic look on her face, and it said, "It's the birthday." And I'm like, and everybody's like, "Oh, happy birthday!" I'm like,
Who are these
first of all, who's
people?
lighting those candles, and why? I mean, the whole thing was insane, and
Yeah.
people reply to it.
People aren't trained to know that an image is not real. Like you think just that basic fact.
Yeah,
That's just not something everyone knows, especially on Facebook probably.
it's, people count the fingers.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
even
these
on
are not.
TikTok, I see crazy animals like distorted like some
Yeah.
almost like a sea monster. It'll be like, "Oh, someone
Yes.
fished this out of the ocean," and it really is
Yes.
eye-catching and it's fake.
Some of them are like they have human, they have arms and legs,
Yeah.
or they're mermaids, horrible looking
Right.
mermaids that they're fishing out of the ocean. And there's some percentage of people are going, wow, I saw, it's on the internet, it's got
Yeah.
to be true, I saw this amazing thing. And their view of what happens in the world has been affected by things that
Right.
never happened in the world. it's
Right.
uh it's really sad. I don't know what to do about it. My problem is that Meta loves this stuff. Like, clearly, I went
Right.
through a phase where I literally blocked every single one every day for like a month, and it just never stopped.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
just nothing can stop it. I've tried ignoring it, and they just seem to love it because these,
Hmm.
and I've also tried engaging and saying, people, this is AI slop. This is garbage. This is BS. Here's an article about the phenomenon
Right.
that yeah, it's just crickets in the woods. Nobody, has zero impact, and there's nothing I can do
Hmm.
to stop seeing AI slop than to get off
Right.
Facebook. There's literally
Right.
nothing we can do.
Well, I actually think, I mean, so the whole thing is they're getting rid of fact checking and then bringing in that
Mm-hmm.
community notes feature from X, which that feature has helped me identify misinformation, I will say. It will,
Yeah,
there was one or two times I read it and it said, actually, this isn't real. Like this footage was from, it'll be let's say it was the LA fires. There's like
yeah,
crazy footage of crazy stuff burning. And it was like, actually, this footage is from 2018.
yeah,
So it did help me. Of course, it depends what the source of the
yeah,
fact check, the information is on the community notes, but it
yeah.
can help identify AI.
The community notes on X are not bad.
Yeah,
They're not as bad as
it's
you
an all
would
right
think.
feature. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess that's hopefully that'll be reasonably good. I'm not sure I
Yeah.
necessarily trust the Facebook community to have good notes, but
No.
we'll see.
Well,
We'll have to see what
Facebook's
happens.
dying, so
Yeah, one
it's
hopes.
probably
One
more
hopes.
for Instagram, or I guess WhatsApp's their biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just had one last thing I want to talk about, which is that I'm just so shocked that Apple uh, got burned by the same type of AI problem that Google and Microsoft and other companies have gotten burned by, which is that they used AI to create summaries for some of their news stories. Um, I think you know what that's called, right? What is the feature called of
It's called
the
notification
summarization?
summaries, and it's part of
Yeah,
Apple
notification
Intelligence.
summaries.
So you'd have to have
Yeah,
a newer device, so an iPhone 15 Pro or 16, which
right.
just launched in the fall.
Yeah. And so this feature was summarizing news stories. The news stories were fine, and it kept going on. People were complaining about it and mocking them until the BBC complained. And when the BBC complained, they stopped doing it. But specifically, they did things like they claimed that the person who was charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Luigi Mangione, uh, had killed himself. That's what the summary said. That's not what the story said. That's not what happened, but that's what the summary said. It also said um, that Spanish tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay, which he did not do. Hopefully,
It's crazy.
I wonder if he saw that one or if anybody in his life saw it, his mother or something. Um, and so the thing that sort of makes me confused about this is exactly the same kind of thing that happened to Microsoft and Google and a bunch of other companies. Microsoft had an MSN story where there was a basketball player named Brandon Hunter who died at the age of 42, and it was actually an obituary. And the headline of the obituary said that Brandon Hunter is useless at 42, and they said
Yikes.
he played 67 video games over 2 seasons, and
What?
the AI apparently didn't know the difference between a video game and an actual basketball game, or didn't
So
care or
bad.
whatever. And so this kind of thing confuses me because, Google got burned, Microsoft got burned, and then Apple's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, we won't get burned because we're Apple. And so they stepped in and they
Yeah.
got burned. And it's embarrassing for a company like Apple that's generally so careful and has gone to such great lengths to promote Apple Intelligence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so ChatGPT and Google Gemini, they have a disclaimer on their chatbot results that says, this is experimental, this might be inaccurate, but this specific feature from Apple is on the notification. So it's a very small premium amount of text that's being
Yeah.
proactively pushed out to people, and is
Yeah.
I think with the next update 18.3, they're going to automatically enable Apple Intelligence, so everyone would just have it by default.
Yeah.
Of course, they won't have this feature anymore. But yeah, they were
Right.
so confident, despite the fact that basically everyone acknowledges that it's going to create fake stuff. So I don't
Yep.
know why they thought, oh, we're going to make this the most prominent text possible on the phone.
Yeah. Well, I'm in favor of AI for certain uses. I think that if it's hallucinating and saying crazy stuff to an individual person, it's up to that person to learn how to use the tool. So you have to give it
Right.
a prompt that's going to less likely to give you a crazy response or a lying response or hallucinating response. And you also have to take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to use the facts or the information you get, you need to sort of sort of fact check it and stuff like that. That's up to you as a user. I can live with that. But when a company just puts AI on autopilot and is sending out
Right.
hallucinations to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people all at once, it makes no sense, especially a company like Apple that has so much money that they can afford to
Right.
hire people. I mean, the number of headlines that they summarize, the number of stories they summarize in the news is it's a finite number of stories, I would imagine. And our profession, editors,
Yes.
journalists,
Yes.
are looking for work generally, given the media
Yeah.
landscape. And so a company like that should be hiring editors to, at the very least, watch the summaries go by and compare it to the story and say, "Yep, that sounds good," and approve it.
Interesting. Well, I
And
was actually going to say there are infinite headlines that it would have to set to summarize. So I don't know
hmm,
if that would be possible.
Yeah.
I mean, all day, every day, all the publications all around the world. I mean,
All
it
the
doesn't work.
languages.
It
Yeah.
doesn't work in all the languages. Actually, that's one
Yeah.
reason Apple Intelligence is not doing well in China, because it doesn't work in Chinese. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just don't think. I don't know why they thought they could do it better than anyone else, but I am happy they turned it off, because in
Hmm.
this example, it's not good for the public. You're getting inaccurate information that
Yeah.
is alarming in the examples you
Yeah.
gave. So it's creating stress.
Right.
It's disparaging the news, the publication, the BBC. It's basically generating fake news and saying the BBC is generating fake news.
Right.
And then it's also bad for people like Rafael Nadal, who is kind of getting bullied by
Hmm.
AI. It's like you're at
Yeah.
recess and everyone starts saying, "Oh,
Right.
he's gay," and it's like everyone's talking about it, and it's like, "No, I'm
Yeah.
not," and it's just all wrong. It's all wrong.
Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
I don't like
I'm glad
it.
they pulled it though, so that's a good
Yes.
thing.
All right. So something that's coming up to look out for is Bill Gates' new book. It's coming out on February 5th. It is a memoir. It's called Source Code. So it's not the typical Bill Gates pontificating about technology and the environment, society, global health, his subjects. This is
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
And he has a splashy claim that he is using to publicize the book. And he did in a Wall Street Journal segment that came out over the weekend. He's saying that he is autistic. Specifically, he's saying that if he was a kid today, he thinks he would be diagnosed with autism, because he has noticed some behaviors that are now understood to be signs of it: social integration problems. He has a physical tic. He rocks back and forth. He
Hmm.
said that bothers people in meetings or different settings. And then
Yes.
also he says an intense focus, which he claims he was able to wield for the good of the company and be successful.
Right.
So I I think people probably won't dive into this claim too much, because no one wants to
Hmm.
be commenting on autism. It's
Hmm.
how you're getting yourself into hot water. So
Yeah.
I started by looking at a Reddit thread of people with autism on what they thought
Hmm.
of this claim.
What'd they think?
So there was general consensus, a little bit of annoyance about the announcement, just because
Hmm.
he didn't mention, at least in the segment with the Wall Street Journal, he didn't say I was diagnosed, or a behavioral psychologist told me I would be diagnosed. He is self-diagnosing, and they
Right.
thought that that was inappropriate to use that when you don't have anything official and you are wealthy
Hmm.
enough to certainly get some degree of confidence, if not a full diagnosis. So
Right.
why come out with that and
Hmm.
just kind of claim this autistic term for headlines or book sales, if
Hmm.
you, as the richest, one of the richest people in the world, couldn't take the time to confirm it with any seriousness?
Right. On the other hand, I'm always diagnosing the mental health of other people. I always say Elon Musk and Donald Trump have sociopathic
Well,
tendencies and
Elon
are
Musk
have
is
narcissistic.
also on the
He says he's
spectrum.
autistic, right? Well, he says
Yeah,
he is. Has he been diagnosed? I'm not sure that
I
he
don't
has.
know. A lot
I
of
mean, he
people are
said,
also self-diagnosing Zuckerberg, which would
yeah,
be inappropriate. But
yes, right.
now it's like actually Craig Newmark told me in an
Hmm.
interview that he is autistic.
Okay.
This was an on the record interview, so I feel all right about
Yep.
that. I think I
But he
printed
was
it.
diagnosed. He's
He
relaying
told
the.
me he was going through like some psychological evaluations, and he
Mm,
said out of that
mm,
this came up. And so he's also older, like Bill Gates, and I
yeah.
think there's a lot more focus now on diagnosing younger people, but there
Hmm.
you can get a diagnosis as an adult.
Sure, you
Um,
can. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I don't know if he's just saying, "Oh, I'm a tech nerd, so it's cool that I have autism, and
Yeah.
I'm down to earth and I struggle," and maybe saving face after his
Hmm.
divorce, which was the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. And
Yeah.
now I don't know. It just I don't know what his point was of coming out with that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't either. And, I think that I'd love for him to have, since he does engage with the topic of public health, for him to have some meaningful and useful opinions
Right.
about maybe overdiagnosing kids with
Right.
hyperactivity or ADHD or autism, because I think it's there are people who are clearly autistic, and there are people on the spectrum, and there are people on certain parts of that spectrum where it's kind of a, it's kind of a tough call, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
what's the difference between somebody whose personality suggests they're on the spectrum and somebody who's actually on what is the spectrum we talk about? And
Right.
I think back to Bill Gates's framing of this, which is that he wasn't diagnosed as a kid, but if he was a kid today, he probably would be, which is that back in his day, there were far fewer diagnoses of these things. And there's a
Yeah.
school of thought that says, we kind of we basically diagnose people to death with every personality is a mental health diagnosis, right? And
Right.
that, in 100 years ago or whenever, I'm not saying that Bill Gates was a kid 100 years ago, but like, decades ago,
Yeah.
people just had different personalities, right?
Right.
They weren't diagnosed with this thing that was kind of like painted on them. Anyway, it's I'm glad he's getting a little guff for it. I think he should have been more responsible about it, and
Right. Well, I
should
don't
have
think
been
he's going to
thinking.
get guff for it. I think people are
Okay.
just going to use it to get attention because it is
Yeah.
interesting, right? And it's
Yeah.
feels a little vulnerable. I just thought it was interesting to get that other perspective of people who
Hmm.
have autism and read that, and they're kind of like, well, this is a little bit BS. And is this
Right.
really help? Is this for us as a community? Is it for him as a person?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of got me thinking like it's a bit odd that so many rich, powerful people are now saying they have autism. And
Hmm.
I don't even know what that means for our society.
Right.
Is it good? In a sense, it's very good that people who might have different ways that they think are very successful. On the
Right.
other hand, there are some problematic behaviors that can be associated with that. Aggression, Elon Musk, aggression, Bill Gates. He is known to
Hmm.
be kind of a
Yeah.
shark when he was developing his company. So I just think it's
Yes.
good to understand these people who are truly shaping our society, like
Yep.
what they bring to the table mentally. So I commend him for coming out with that. I don't know how we will use that information, but
Hmm.
that's his big reveal.
Yeah, and one last point that I'd like to make is that I think when you talk about Bill Gates and Elon Musk, both of them claim some level of autism potentially. I think Elon Musk's case is something else, right? Because he's
Hmm.
changed so much in the last 5 or 10 years,
That's
and
true.
there are rumors that he's on ketamine or taking other drugs. He's some of his behavior is not explainable through autism. I fear that people, given that he's claimed to be on the spectrum, that people will basically say, well, his behavior, his
Yeah.
many of the things he's doing is because of the autism he claims, and that's not right. The
Right.
people are complex. Their chemistry, either induced or natural, is different. People are not autistic. People are not just autistic. They are also complex people who have other things going on in their life, other experiences, other situations. So those are very, very different things. I think in general, Bill Gates has had a very stable personality over the decades, and Elon Musk has absolutely not.
Right. So it's not like, oh, if someone has autism, you should think, oh, well, they're a jerk because Elon
Right.
Musk does.
Yeah.
So that's also why I was curious he didn't take more care in his reveal and use of the word
Hmm.
autism. I mean,
Right.
maybe he does in the book. I mean, maybe it was
Yep.
just the edit on the video, but it was an uninterrupted clip and that's how he presented it. So uh,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see if he gives more details on that or if he makes that his new personality that he's
Yeah.
investigating. That we'll see.
Okay, so we talked about adding a segment to the end of our podcast. And by the way, this is the Unicorn Roast podcast. This is our
Yes.
first episode. Our previous episode was episode 0. This is the first one. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking we keep the first one anyway, the 0 episode. I kind of
Yeah.
liked it. I listened to it and I enjoyed it very much. Anyway, it's
I didn't
I
listen
think,
to it. I was like secondhand embarrassed by myself.
well, we have to get over that because
I
we're gonna be
know.
hearing our own voice. But we talked about having a segment where we kind of crap on something, and I think we did we land on the block list.
Yeah. Well, we talked
Okay,
about
so
that as a potential name, but I like that you're
okay,
reusing it here.
so are you comfortable with calling it the block list as opposed to the
Yeah.
spam? reference or whatever. Okay, so let's call it the block list. And so for today's block list, I would like to block. I would like everyone to block Google's reCAPTCHA version 2. What is reCAPTCHA version 2? CAPTCHA is the concept where you prove you're human by doing something on screen that computers used to find it hard to do. In the case of reCAPTCHA version 2, which is owned by Google, they often say, okay, show, click on the box that has the motorcycles or the traffic lights or whatever. And I
And
get
then
these
you
all the
have a
time.
whole identity crisis, and you're like, do I even know what a motorcycle
Right.
is?
Yes. Well, you don't. I used to not click on the scooters because they're not motorcycles, and like, but it
Right.
doesn't know
You're
what a
like, oh,
motorcycle
what?
is.
How do you define motorcycle? And it's
Right.
just ridiculous exercise.
And is the back of traffic light a traffic light, or is it just the
Right.
light part of the traffic light?
These
Anyway,
are
so
big
it's
questions.
toxic. So the number one thing that I have against these, and I don't want to, belabor this point too much, but the number one thing I have against them is that they waste everyone's time. The number two thing I have against them is that AI can easily defeat them. AI is much better now at proving it's human than humans are. And so this is a problem. And the third problem I have is that they're insecure. They're used by third party companies, and they can actually create a security risk. And this has been demonstrated by
Right.
research and also in real life. So I think that we need to, as a user base, because Google's still using it. Google uses this for Google search, arguably
Wow.
their most important product. And they have a version 3 that's actually really good. It works behind the scenes. It's harder to implement.
Hmm.
And I don't know why Google isn't implementing this. I hope they don't think their own product is too hard to implement. But I feel I get caught on these all the time. Sometimes it's because I'm using a VPN. Sometimes it's probably because I'm in El Salvador right now. I'm abroad a lot, and
Yeah, you
and
might be seeing different stuff.
I do tons of research. So I today, uh, actually preparing for this podcast, I was confronted 10 times
Oof.
where I had to go and click, and it just really, I spend so much money on fast stuff so that I don't have to wait a fraction of a second and I'm not slowed down. And they just say, we're just going to take up like scads of your time and to prove you're human and to train our uh, visual recognition systems. I am done with reCAPTCHA version 2, and I'm just, whenever I get confronted now, Google, if you're listening, which you're not, but if you were, I would like to tell you that whenever I'm confronted by these from now on, I'm just switching to another browser because I'm not putting up with it anymore. This is ridiculous already. This is an obsolete technology, and it's time to just stop using reCAPTCHA version 2.
Amen. Or version 1.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Well, you have made it through our first, it's really our second episode of the Unicorn Roast podcast with Mike Elgin and Emily Forlini. This podcast has and will never have a paywall. It has no ads and no sponsors. And all we ask from you is a 5-star rating and a glowing review. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back probably next week.
We will be back. Thanks for hanging out with us.